Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We're talking with Portland City Commissioner Amanda Fritz, who recently announced after 3 terms in office she won't seek re-election in 2020. But she still has big plans for her remaining months in office. Welcome once again to Straight Talk, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I mentioned the JTTF, the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Earlier this year, you joined Joanne Hardesty and Chloe Udaly in voting for the city to leave that Joint Terrorism Task Force. We're looking at video here of Joanne Hardesty as she led a rally before the City Council vote earlier this year. Those who wanted the city out of the task force cited a deep distrust in the program's ability to root out terrorism while still upholding residents' civil rights. And Hardesty said it was also at odds with the city's status as a sanctuary city. But there are a lot of critics who say by leaving that task force, the city is less safe. Do you stand by your vote?
Yes.
You still think it was a good decision?
We've been out for several weeks now, or a couple of months, and the JTTF is still going to be operating in Portland. The issue is whether our police officers are going to be spending time reviewing data that, by Oregon law, they're not allowed to have. So the previous agreement said that our officers were not going to be engaged in surveillance where there wasn't a reasonable likelihood of suspicion of a crime being committed, but the federal agencies are not bound by that. And so there's information in the computers that our officers are not supposed to have access to, and by being in the terrorism task force, they did. There's also we had a lot of concern from communities of color about targeting and surveillance.
But there is a significant change because the council voted to participate on an as-needed basis, which is somewhat confusing. Can you help us understand that in your role in that vote?
That means that they won't be spending routinely a day a week reviewing the data and having conversations about what the task force is doing. If there is an incident, I don't know whether the recent incident at Parkrose High School would count as a terrorism incident or not. It's, as we're talking, it's too soon to tell. But if there is a reason for us to be talking to them, then the chief is authorized to go ahead and do that.
And you were on board with that?
Yes. Yeah, we're not going to, Nina, we're not talking to you at all. We're just saying that on a routine basis, we're not comfortable with the methods that are being used in the state of Oregon, where people who testified that the FBI were very clear that they do not respect our status as a sanctuary state. They do not agree with many of our laws. They don't like the cannabis laws. There's many things that, are what we as Oregonians value that are not shared by the FBI.
Commissioner, what do you see as your biggest accomplishments over the last 3 terms?
Well, establishing the Office of Equity and Human Rights. We've made a huge amount of progress in hiring people of color, retaining people of color in the city workforce, in getting contracts to go to communities that previously have not had access to them, and in providing services in all 95 neighborhoods. And I'm very excited that I think we're finally kind of we've pushed the rock up the hill so far that it's not going to now roll back. So that's huge. We passed protected sick time, which then went statewide, and I'm hoping will go national. So that's exciting to have championed, in partnership with the community, a program which has changed lives. And I've really stood for fiscal responsibility. So we passed a resolution, a binding city policy, saying that half of all one-time money goes to maintenance of critical infrastructure. And I also passed the Fix Our Parks bond measure, which was not for shiny new stuff for the most part. It was for fixing aging infrastructure. And I'm very proud of the $68 million for the Parks bond and about $70 million that we've allocated to things like fixing roofs and furnaces and things that otherwise would not have gotten done.
You have a lot more time left in office, 19 months plus. What do you hope to accomplish in that time?
Well, the first order of business is the Open and Accountable Elections program, as I mentioned earlier. That's going to go live in July. And then we're going to be referring some ballot measures to the We're going to be referring ballot measures for the November election to add protections for the Bull Run watershed into the charter. I was astonished to find out that there's nothing about the Bull Run watershed in the charter, and we want to make sure that it remains a beautiful, pristine, and place for quality drinking water. It's where we
get all of our drinking water.
Exactly,
so critical.
And last year's fires came very close to the watershed, so if there was a move to have more people being allowed in there that might increase the risk of wildfires, that would be devastating for Portland's water. So I'm going to be referring that to the ballot in November.
And is there anything else that I'm sure you have other goals, anything else that you'd like to mention?
Those are the two that are on my mind that we're going to get done in the next few months.
But you're going to be busy.
We always have a big to-do list, and I've got a fantastic staff who are committed to continuing to work with me, and we'll get a lot of stuff done.
I want to read something to you from one of your fellow commissioners, Commissioner Nick Fish. We just have a little over 2 minutes left, but I did want to read this to you. This is a quote from him from OPB. Amanda's service has been characterized by deep commitment to equity, access to government, good governance, and reform. It has been an honor to serve with her. We have shared a number of personal milestones. Nobody's been more supportive of my struggle with cancer, and I traveled to Salem with her on what was probably the toughest day of her life. He obviously has great respect for you. Is it going to be tough for you to leave the council?
It'll be tough to leave Nick, that's for sure. He and I have worked together now for over 10 years. He's just been absolutely heroic during his cancer treatments, which he alluded to in that statement. I think, you know, he gets treatment every 3 weeks, sometimes every 2 weeks. He shows up to work almost every single day. And when he's not at work, you know that he's in touch with his chief of staff and really working hard for the people of Portland. So I hope I will remain friends with Nick for as long as I live.
He mentioned the toughest day of your life, and he was talking about your husband's death when Steve was killed in a car crash on I-5 in 2014. Commissioner Fish and then Police Chief Mike Reese traveled with you that day to the scene, which I imagine was very difficult. How tough has it been for you these last few years, and did that play in at all to your decision to leave the council at this point?
Yes, it did, because it has been tough. I saw Art Garfunkel at the Revolution Hall, and he lost his voice for a while. So at this concert, he was mostly talking. He said, you have to be brave to heal on stage. And I think that's been very true for me. I've recently met with Ailey Lowry, who's running for school board. She's a pastor as well as an amazing person. And when I told her that I was not running again, she said, oh, you need time to grieve. And I thought that was very perceptive, because I hadn't said that in my statement. But yes, I do need some. Because
you went ahead and ran for your third term, decided that you needed to keep busy, but now maybe you haven't had time to grieve.
Yes. Certainly my house hasn't been clean for 12 years, so there's that as well. And I think I've done a lot of good things. I've accomplished a lot of good things, and it's time for somebody else to have a turn.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us here on Straight Talk. We want to thank you for your years of service. I hope that you're going to be on the show before the end. Of just like 10 seconds left. Would you like to leave a thought with our viewers?
I'm looking forward to working hard and continuing to answer emails. I've answered over 50,000 emails myself over the
Which is incredible, 50,000 emails.
Yeah.
Commissioner Amanda Fritz, thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk. And we hope you'll join us again next week when my guest is Mayor Ted Wheeler. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk. Have a great week.